Today we're starting on Yud Bais 12a. We're supposed to be on Yud Gimel. We're on Yud Bais. Gemara says.
Rabbi, we just want to set the ladies on. I'm putting you on. We'll just spell the storm. Okay?
Morning, Daniel.
Make sure you put yourself on mute.
You want English? Go have an English. One English. Another English.
You still there? Hello?
So the Mishnah said that a woman, before she's together with her husband, is supposed to do an examination to make sure that she's pure. Now, we explained that it's referring to a woman that's during the day is Isaac Bataris. She usually is involved in Truma and different things. So once she has to do a Bidika, an examination, to make sure that she's starved for Truma, so we say it doesn't make sense. For food, she has to do an examination. And for the most serious thing of all, for her husband, she doesn't have to do an examination. So such a woman would have to do an examination also before she's together with her husband. We're starting on Yud Bais. It says, B'shoshi Everes. Before she goes to be with her husband. Amar Rab Ami, Amar Rab Yanai. These are Amiroim from Eretz Yisrael. Rabbi Yanai, Rab Ami is in the yeshiva of Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yanai is a little before that. Rabbi Yanai is actually a teacher of Rabbi Yochanan. So Rab Ami says in the name of Rabbi Yanai. Rabbi Yanai is tiny letters above Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Ami says in the name of Rabbi Yanai, V'zeu Adan shel Tznuis. Now Adan could mean a time, or it could mean
from the word Idan.
Yeah, B'chalidan v'Idan. Or it could mean an aid, a cloth. This is the cloth of the Tznua. How is Tznua translated in your English? Tznua is a modest woman, but this must be something. Do they have a? How do they translate Tznua? Virtuous. A virtuous woman. This is the cloth of a virtuous woman. Amli Rababa bar Mamal Rabami. So Rababa bar Mamal says to Rabami. Some people say that Rababa bar Mamal is in generally Rababa. So when it says Rababa, it's Rababa bar Mamal. Some people say that. Tani Tana Tzrichas. He says that the Mishnah says that this is an obligation. Tani Tznuas, and you say it's virtuous. Amarlei. So Rabami responds, Shani Yomer Kolamakayim Devri Chacham Nekir Tznuah. What's the problem? I say that anyone that follows what the sages say is Tznuah, is virtuous. Amarava. Rava responds, and if you don't keep the words of the sages, so you're not virtuous, you're not wicked, that's it, you're just plain not virtuous. If you violate the sages, so you're not wicked also. This Gemara right here is the source for the first parak of Tanya, where the Alter Rebbe writes, these are parak Bais Diavamas, parak Nidda, on the bottom of the first page. He says that afilo over alusa kalsha divrei sefer mikri rasha. Even if someone violates a rabbinic law, a small rabbinic law is considered wicked. It can't be that a rasha is half and half. He quotes this Gemara. Perik Bais Diavamas, Perik Hamadini does this piece. Elam Rava, so Rava explains Tznua is, how does it work over here? A virtuous woman, Sa'it Shabadku Bayatzman Lefnei Tashmish Zeh, Ein Badkus Be Lefnei Tashmish Acher. A virtuous woman would use a different cloth for each relations. Rashi explains that after it's used, it loses its brightness. So it won't be as easy to see if there's a drop of blood there. However, it's still usable if you would use it a second time. But a Tznua doesn't do that. But if it's not a virtuous woman, then it's not a problem. You're allowed to use a cloth more than once, even though it's used already. It doesn't have to be disposable. You could use the cloth. Disposable that's a modern thing. It doesn't have to be washed. Is the old term. It doesn't have to be washed. You're allowed to use it twice if it's clean. But they wouldn't, because the brightness fades. It's not as bright and it's not as easy to see. They want it to be machmer, make sure it's easy to see if there's dam there. Gufa. Okay, the following Gemara takes us till the end of the Perek. And it's actually an easy Gemara until you look at the Rishonim and the Paiskim. It's probably one of the hardest Gemaras. But if you just learn it like in the Daf Yomi, it's pretty easy. Okay, Gufa. We taught before that Amar Reb Zera, Amar Reb Abba Bar Yirmiyah, Amar Shmuel. Reb Zera says in the name of Reb Abba Bar Yirmiyah in the name of Shmuel. Reb Zera, we said, moved to Eretz Yisrael, but first he was a student of Rav Yehuda. And he moves to Eretz Yisrael. So on our chart, Reb Zera is in Israel, but he's actually a student of Rav Yehuda. Here he's saying in the name of Reb Abba Bar Yirmiyah and the name of Shmuel. Shmuel is up there. And we had this before on the bottom of Yud Aleph Amud Bais. It goes like this. Isha she'ein la veses, or vest. Daniel pointed out to me that the word veses, which means an anticipated time, right? So he said the English word vested. It's a
you
vested.
reached the time.
Vested. What does it mean? Vested in the
like in stock that you can now, like if you get an option, you now from a company, you now are able to withdraw. In other words, you've reached the time. Up until then, you haven't.
So it's an English word also.
Yeah.
Okay, so he says Isha she'ein lo veses or vest asula shamashat shetibdik. A woman that doesn't have a cycle that's set is forbidden to have relations until she does an examination. Now, we said before that this was referring to a woman that's involved with taharas. But we have to see if it means any woman or it just means a woman that during the day is busy with food, holy food, and pure food, so therefore she has to be more careful. Let's see. The Gemara is going to get into that. Amalei Reb Zera Reb Abba Bar Yirmiyah. So Reb Zera says to Reb Abba Bar Yirmiyah, Ein laveses boi bedika. You make it look like a woman that doesn't have a precise, what is the word?
Fixed time.
A fixed. You make it look like a woman that doesn't have a fixed time, a fixed cycle, so she needs to do an examination. But yesh laveses lo boi bedika. But a woman that has a fixed time doesn't need to do an examination. You're ignoring what we learned in the Mishnah. The Mishnah says that even a woman, we started the Mishnah off, even though she has a fixed time, she needs to do an examination. So why are you making it look like it's only if she doesn't have a fixed time? Amarle, he gives a very interesting answer. He says, Yesh laveses, if she has a fixed time, we're going to be more lenient. I'm sorry. If she has a fixed time, we're going to be more lenient. It goes like this. Eira v'ibedika. That if she's awake, then she needs to do an examination. But you don't have to wake her up to do the examination. Yishena le v'ibedika. But if she's asleep, because it's assumed that she's probably clean anyway, and just if she's awake, then you have her do it.
I thought there's no issue of being awake sleep. I think one is permissible, one's not.
Right. It's funny that our Gemara does not get into that at all because that happens to be. It's like those are laws. Those are laws from Orach Chaim. Those are laws that come from a different book in the Shulchan Aruch. Here we're talking about the Tumah and Tara aspect.
Didn't we say before that if a few pages back that she would wake up from sleep if something was happening?
Yeah, if she would feel it, if she would have a sensation, right?
So the fact that she's sleeping and all of a sudden, without any mention,
right? Interesting.
Rashi
gives one twist over here, which is very important. Rashi gives a twist. Why does this woman need to do a bedika? Why does she need to do an examination? Because she's a sukkah b'taras. She usually is involved with food that's pure, needs to be pure for truma and other things. And so therefore, once it's called like agav, which means like by way of. The fact that she needs to do a bedika for food, so agav that she needs to do a bedika for her husband. When can she be involved in food? When she's awake. So when she's awake, she needs to do a bedika for her husband. When she's asleep, she's not involved in food anyway, so she doesn't need to. That Rashi adds that in.
Like a club discussion.
Forget that today. It could be Tuesday break on such.
Yeah, I hear. That was Yitzi brought that up from a halachic perspective. That there's rules about that in Shulchan Aruch if she's asleep. Okay, Amar Rava says, "V'lei malei yesh laveses litaris by bedika." He could have answered differently. He had a question over here. His question was that the statement was Ein laveses by bedika. If she doesn't have a fixed time, she needs to do an examination. It sounds like if she does have a fixed time, she doesn't need to. So we answered that if she doesn't have a fixed time, if she does have a fixed time, she doesn't need to. That's what it sounds like. So we answered that if she has a fixed time, then she doesn't need to when she's asleep. Doesn't need to when she's asleep. Rava asks, we could have answered differently. We could have answered that if she has a fixed time, then she needs to do a bedika for her husband. I'm sorry, she needs to do a bedika for her husband as well. But if she has a fixed time, no, 1 second. She has a fixed time, so she needs to do a bedika for Taurus, but not for her husband. But if she doesn't have a fixed time, then she even needs to do a bedika even for her husband. So we could have answered that we're talking about could have answered.
That makes sense.
Here it says the second thing is if she doesn't handle tahara items, then for the sake of being with her husband, she's not required to do an examination. If she's not handling the
So we could have answered that if she's not handling taras, then she doesn't need to do a medika if she has a fixed time. If she has a fixed time, we could have responded like that. That we're talking about a woman that isn't involved in taharas. That could have been our answer. And only if she doesn't have a fixed time does she need an examination. So from the fact that we don't answer that, from the fact that we don't answer that, follow this. This comes out a big leniency. We could have answered that we're dealing with a woman, an everyday, a regular woman that's not involved in taras. And when we said a woman that doesn't have a fixed time needs to do a bedika, we're talking about such a woman. And that it means a regular woman needs to do an examination if she doesn't have a fixed cycle. Even just to be with her husband, because she has no taras. Shmuel, we didn't answer that. Reb Zera didn't answer that. Why not? Because he says that Shmuel holds that a regular woman doesn't need to do a bedika at all. So our answer needs to be just regarding a woman that is involved with food, holy food during the day. And then for her husband, she needs to do a bedika. So we said, 1 second. You said whether she has a fixed cycle or doesn't need to have a fixed cycle, she needs to do a bedika. Why are you saying only if she doesn't have a fixed cycle? So we said, no, there's a difference. Such a woman, if she doesn't have a fixed cycle, then she needs to do a bedika even if she's asleep. He has to wake her to do the bedika. But if not, then only when she's awake. If she has a fixed cycle.
Like half asleep, not actually asleep, because otherwise the Gemara wouldn't bring it down, right? I went over this stuff yesterday. On the other sheet,
I don't know what half
she
asleep
was just
is.
half asleep, not actually asleep.
Uh-huh.
This is a shayna.
Oh, so it means that she's only half asleep?
Yeah, because otherwise it would be that you could be with your wife when she's asleep. So it's just like saying that she was just groggy.
It says over here,
That's a
says that.
Taisvis. You're quoting Taisvis. Very good. Yeshakayach. Quotes in the Taisvis answers the Yitzi's question that she's partially asleep. She's groggy. Was that the word that you just used?
It says
groggy?
She's not fully asleep. She's merely not alert enough to declare whether she's taught or not.
Okay, excellent. So, but what comes out over here is that Shmuel holds that a regular woman does not need to do any bedikas for her husband, whether she has a fixed cycle or not. Tana Rabbanan, start in a brisa.
What does Shmuel hold by the multiple times? In other words, he says Stami that she doesn't have to do anything, because earlier on we said, just 15 minutes ago, once, twice, that he doesn't hold by at all.
That's only if she's a sukkah b'taras. She needs to do a bedika. Only a woman that's a sukkah b'taras that's involved with pure food. So once she has to do bedikas for food, she also has to do a bedika for her husband.
No, we were talking about multiple cohabitation.
That was only for that woman that was a sukkah
That
b'taras.
one. Oh.
So because during the day she needs to do bedika for that, so for her husband she also needs to do bedikas. But a regular woman that's not involved in taras doesn't need. That's what we learned over here. Taner Rabbanan starting a Bais Chamarim. These are donkey drivers. They travel. They come home every 3 months or something. Pailim and workers. Someone that comes from a mourning house, from a wedding. They're coming back from a trip. The wives are becheskas that they're pure. They can come and be with them, whether they're asleep or awake. That's if when they left, they were pure. So they don't assume anything changed. If they went away for more than a month, it's going to be different. But if they went away within a month, so it's assumed that it's the same.
Why don't you do as well? They just ask.
They didn't talk much about
Yeah,
this.
you tell me or not.
What was the question?
Why don't they just ask? They tell me or not? It's a very good question.
No, the answer is because ordinarily the wife has to declare now Torah.
Right,
So
just to make a statement.
what you're saying is that you don't need to wait for the wife to make that statement. It's under the chazaka that she's still.
Even if she doesn't know.
Listen, should we start looking for a shidduch for him?
But when she
Few
comes,
minutes.
when she comes from the mikveh, she has to say, "I went to the mikveh." You just can't assume, okay, I dropped her off, I picked her up. She's supposed to say that, right?
Statement.
Yeah.
So by Rabbi Elazar Bar Shimon, Reb Shimon Bar Yochai's son, so at his bar mitzvah, the Zohar talks about how it was so exciting and there was a fire around the house and only people that were inside were. So I think that's what. Maybe I'm confusing this with this passing, but they said that the Shekhinah was there and they said the simcha was so great. The only thing they were missing was the shidduch for him because it was his bar mitzvah already. He could already have it. He brought.
I thought that was his
So they said,
passing.
okay, it could be at the
With
passing was the fire.
and everything.
At the fire. So they said, okay, so we'll make a shidduch right here also. Easy.
You ready?
Is anyone?
You can save on the party planner. You do the bar mitzvah. Okay, so well, we said that's only if he left while she was tar, but he left her tamei. You see, she has to make the statement. How would Shmuel learn this brisa? Are we talking about a woman that has a fixed cycle? So established. Yeah. How is he going to position this? So if it's a woman that has a vesas, so kasha era, then there's a question on when she's awake. We said a woman that's awake, even if she has vesas, she has to do a bedika. That was based on our Mishnah. Bibashein levesas. If she doesn't have a fixed cycle, so kasha ben yer ben yeshena, then she definitely needs to do a bedika. That's what we said. So with the Gemara answers, leilam b'sheish levesas. Coming to an interesting point over here. Really, she has a vesas. And when she needs to do a bedika when she's awake. So we said, a woman that has a fixed cycle needs to do a bedika when she's awake. Just that. That's what it's limited to. But once he, how do they translate tava? Requests. Once he requests of her that they be together, so that's considered an examination, because she's going to have to concentrate to think. She's going to have to concentrate, am I tar or am I not? So that's considered an examination to feel if she's tar and okay. Amali Rav Papa Rava. Rav Papa says to Rava, Ma'al lemevad ki hamas nisa. Should we go according to this brisa? That means this is a ambiguous statement here. One of the commentaries learns that it means, can we rely on his requesting that should satisfy the obligation of Bidika? Yeah.
Just the notes say it's nice because it's like a lashon nakiya because she needs time. She doesn't just ask her. It says he gives her he does prolonged overtures.
Oh.
So it's like give her, but he doesn't stop because then she would have to answer. So it's just.
There's just Tosfos explains that those people discussing the Bais have a tendency to take more time enticing their wives before requesting of them to be together.
Right. Amalei Sudni. Sudni is translated here as Talmud Chacham. However, Rashi brings another pshat. You have a second pshat of it. Here he says it means it's a nickname. Sod, which means secret, referring to Sayyid Hashem Lirei of the Talmud Chacham. Others say that it refers to what's a moniker?
Soda.
Moniker is someone who manufactures wine.
No, moniker is like the name.
A nickname is a moniker.
Oh, a moniker.
He's known
This
by
moniker refers to one who manufactures or sells wine.
Single.
Rashi brings something about beer.
This is from Rashi on Brachos.
Oh,
This whole this.
okay. Okay, so he calls him a Sudni. He says, Loi, the Megani Bape. She's going, you can't ask, or Loi Megani Bape, it's in question form. You can't ask because once he gets these thoughts that maybe she's Tameh, he's going to feel disgusted if he's going to have to articulate this. Amar Rav Kana. Now, this Rav Kana is a much later Rav Kana. We definitely have two Rav Kana. We definitely have two Rav Kanas, but possibly more. This is a later Rav Kana. Amar Rav Kana, Shaltino Linchi Besi de Rav Papa, with the Rav Huna Beri de Rav Yeshua. Rav Papa and Rav Huna Beri de Rav Yeshua are the later Amiraim, the students of Abaye and Rava. They're towards the end of the Amorai period. So Rav Kana says on the chart, Rav Kana 2. He asks the wives of Rav Papa, doesn't mean the wives, the household, the wives of Rav Papa and Rav Huna Beri de Rav Yeshua, Ki Yasser Rabbanan Mi Rav. When the rabbis come from the yeshiva, do they require you to do an examination when they come back? They said to me, Loi. They said no, they don't require it. That means they're relying on that Mishnah, on that Brisa. So the Gemara asks, "V'shalin olidi too. Why didn't he ask the husband?" So the Gemara answers, "Dilma inu kamachmri anafshayu." He didn't want to ask them because they're going to give the politically correct answer, and they're not going to say what really happens. They're going to say what the miyikra din or this. He won't be able to get the whatever stringencies they actually have, and he wanted to hear the inner. What's the real story? Rashi quotes an interpretation here that he says is a mistake, and which basically his interpretation was maybe they're strict on others but lenient on themselves. He said chas v'shalom to say that. Anyway, the interesting thing is that Rav Kana is Rav Kana the first in the Gemara Brachas is hiding under Rav's bed when Rav is there with his wife, and Rav says, "Kana, get out of here," and he says, "Torah he v'lilmad ani Torah." I need to study Torah. This is Torah also. Everything in that Rav does is Torah. Here we are, Rav Kana asking the wives about what they do. It's a different Rav Kana, but it's interesting. Association is Tanur Rabbanan. Tanur Rabbanan. Isha she'ein la v'eses asur l'shamish. Very strict. It's very strict. A woman that doesn't have a fixed cycle is forbidden to be with her husband. Ve'ein la, and she does not have double negatives in Hebrew are common. Ve'ein la like ksuba v'lei peres v'lei mezainas v'lei belois. She does not have not a ksuba, not things that she brought into the marriage beforehand, no food. If the husband goes away, the Beis Din would give food from his property so that she should survive his trip. And Bais, she doesn't have cloth, which is if she had clothing at the beginning, even if it gets worn down, she doesn't get that. Okay, V'yoitzi, he divorces her, and he cannot remarry her. Divrei Rab Meir, that's the words of Rab Meir. Rab Chanina ben Antigna says, he's not so strict. So there's a woman that doesn't have a fixed cycle, so we don't know when she's going to see blood, but she still has a solution. If she uses an examination, they can mess her up, and they can also fix her up. Depends what she sees or she doesn't see. So these Eidim is the cloths, they could be a solution or a problem. Abachanan says, woe to the husband. We don't know what he means, but the issue is, what does he actually hold? He just says, Okay, now the Gemara goes and explains. The Gemara goes and explains what this brisa means. We start with Reb Meir's opinion. It said Asur l'shamis. Can't have relations. They can't be together. Dilma kalkalis. Like maybe she's going to see right then. She's going to have blood while they're together. They ain't like ksuba. She doesn't get her ksuba. Ksuba is the money, 200 zuz or 100 zuz that they get when they divorce. I'm sorry.
Prenup.
Okay, she doesn't get that prenup. Why not? She can't function as a wife, so she doesn't get the ksuba. She doesn't get those added things, what she brought into the marriage and all of those things. It says why? Because tonight ksuba ksuba dami, because conditions of the ksuba, which means those side items that are put into the ksuba are considered the same status as the ksuba, and if she doesn't get the ksuba, she doesn't get those items as well. The Pshita. The Gemara has a question.
I don't understand this case. Why is it ksuba comes out when he's going to divorce her?
He has to divorce her. This opinion is very strict. She doesn't have a fixed cycle, and
She doesn't have a cycle period, just
random times. So we're afraid that it's always going to come when they're together, and she's going to be forbidden to be with her. So he can't be with her, so he has to divorce her.
Even if she checks right before?
Rabbi Chanina says he can check right before. Rabbi Meir's concerned that maybe right after the checking it's going to come.
Because it's erratic.
Yeah, but didn't we learn before that if it occurs after, did we assume that it occurred just
Later.
then?
No, he's concerned that it's going to occur during.
So that's his opinion. I mean, he's erratic. He ain't going to have any woman that's not perfect not getting married.
Rabbi Tenenhaus says that his father was close to the Rebbe. So he went into the Rebbe Yechidus and he wrote a list. He was a bacher. He wrote a list of what he's looking for in a wife. So he had a list of different qualities that he thought were important. So the Rebbe told him, he says, this is a very good list, but it's for someone that's perfect. And you're not perfect, so... Okay, so yes, this is a very strict opinion, and let's see. For the problem is that he said that he has to divorce her and he can't remarry her. The Gemara says pshita. If he has to divorce her and nothing changed, so the reason why she's no better as a second wife, right? The same issues are there. Why should we have to say that he can't remarry her? So the Gemara says, like the hadra ve'askana. No, talking about that the situation changed. Where she does get a regular cycle, a fixed cycle, he still can't remarry. Ma'odatema lihadra. I could have thought, no, you can remarry her. Her biological her pattern became fixed, uniform. So everything's good. Kamash Malon, no, there's a problem. The Simlin Dazlam and Aswa Masakna. Maybe she's going to go and get married and everything's going to get fixed by a different husband.
Yeah, but then he
And
can't
look at what
marry her
happens.
anyway.
He can't marry her anyway, but look at what he's going to say. If I would have known that she was going to have a fixed cycle, even if you would give me 100 money, I would never have divorced. She was a good wife. She just, her cycle was off. But she was a good wife. I would never, nim to get batal. What he's going to say is that the whole get was given by on a it was like a mekachtos. It was given.
Too late.
What's the word that they use for?
False premise.
On a false premise. The whole get was given for a false premise. What's going to come out? That this new marriage that she has, her second husband, but it wasn't allowed to be with her. She was really married the whole time. The get was batal, but now mamzerim. It's going to have an effect on the children. So therefore, what we have to say is that he can never remarry her. That way he can never make a claim like that. Even if she gets fixed, her cycle gets back, he can never marry her anyway. That way he can't say that it gets batal.
It's interesting because you can get married on the conditional claim, be a tzad, but you can't I got divorced on the conditional claim.
Right. Well, this creates big problems. Before a divorce, before a get, they make the husband makes many statements saying that there's no conditions here. Because they don't want anything afterwards. That he shows up and says, no, all of that was based on something. Okay. Mishum Abachanan Amru. The Mishnah said that Abachanan, in the name of Abachanan, they said Eily labayla, ay to the husband. What does he say? What does he mean? Ikadami le Rab Meir Amar.